What's up, guys? Today we're going to be working shoulders and a little bit of upper chest with landmine presses. All right, so to do landmine presses, of course, we're going to need a landmine, which is this little contraption. You put the end of your barbell in here. This is just a standard 7-foot barbell. And then it goes inside of some plate weights, and it looks like a big landmine on the floor. They have all different kinds of attachments to do the same thing, but ultimately, all you really need is a corner or something to prop this bar in so that when you lift it off the ground, one end is free to move and the other end is fixed at the bottom of the floor. I'm gonna walk you through a few of my favorite variations of the landmine shoulder press or landmine press, and we're gonna show you some ways to do them standing, some ways to do them kneeling, as well as how you can maximize the force curve using resistance bands and the free weights that we have sitting here. So let's get into the basics of how to do a standing landmine shoulder press, how I prefer to do them. So basically, I put some weight on here. The bar is 45 pounds, so some people might be able to just start with the bar. It's a decent amount of weight, especially when you're standing and you're doing it with one arm. And to get set up in this, I like to stagger my stance. And then I always have my same side foot as the working arm is gonna be back. And then I kind of just square up to this bar and I get the grip right here on the end of the bar. And then notice my elbow is kind of pinched into my side here and I'm not letting it go behind my spine. So I'm trying to keep my shoulder in a nice fixed position here and low. And then to do this, I'm just pressing up and overhead. And I'm not reaching with my arm because if I reach too much, you'll notice that when you reach, you're actually moving that scapula up and you're engaging a lot more trap than anything. We want to try to keep this kind of into the shoulder, and then because we're standing, the angle of this, it's going to get some shoulder, some front, mostly front delts, a little bit of side delts, and then we're also going to get some upper chest muscles here engaged at this standing angle because we're kind of pressing away from ourselves. But ultimately, it's pretty simple. You're just going to lock this thing in, keep it nice and controlled, keeping that shoulder down and fixed. And again, we're not letting that elbow drift behind our spine. We kind of just bring it down, keep it nice and tight, and then extend it up. And you make sure you get some good engagement, good squeeze in that front delt and the upper chest at the top of the rep. The one thing I want to talk about here is the shoulder stress and how the shoulder joint works in this exercise. So when we pick this bar up and we're square here with it and we extend, all that force is pushing basically straight down our arm and it's pushing that humerus bone basically straight back. So as I'm loading this thing up and doing the exercise, there's gonna be a lot of extra work with my rotator cuff muscles to hold that humerus bone, the ball, into the socket. And if you have pain, discomfort, or recovering from shoulder injuries, that might not be ideal if you're trying to do this exercise. So what you can do, instead of being square and pointing directly at this bar, you can kind of open that angle up just a little bit, around 30, 40 degrees. And when you go to push, kind of get that same staggered stance, get that, when you push, you can push straight out. And now when you look at that line of force, it's coming straight down my humerus bone and it's driving that ball directly into the socket. Think of like a golf ball on a golf tee, and we're basically pushing that golf ball straight into the tee so that everything is nice and aligned and those rotator cuff muscles don't have to do so much work to hold that shoulder in place. So now you can focus more on pressing and getting those shoulders engaged. One more thing I want you to notice on this landmine type of exercise is that the resistance profile changes as we go through. It's not always the same resistance. So at the bottom of the rep, we're supporting most of the weight here, and it's gonna be the heaviest. And at the top of the rep, the bar is supporting more of the weight because we've changed the geometry here, and therefore it's gonna be heavy at the bottom and light at the top. It's not a huge difference, but it is noticeable. So one thing that we can do is add a resistance band to this exercise to get a more balanced strength profile, or make it so that it's even more resistance at the top of the rep, which is great for training your shoulders because you're the strongest at that, almost that fully extended portion of the rep. So to do that, I'm just gonna grab a 41-inch band, loop it around my, my back foot, and then I'm just gonna loop it on the bar here. And now I have free weights plus bands to create a great optimized strength profile here that gives me more resistance at the top than at the bottom. And you can obviously customize how much weight you put on this bar versus how much band tension you use, and that'll really give you full control of the Landmine shoulder press. All right, so in the standing version of this press, the angle of the exercise, the bar is more out in front of you than it is above you. So we are going to be getting some upper chest involved as well as some front delts. If you want to isolate most of the front delts and some of the side delt, we need to drop down onto our knees to do a kneeling version of this press. And I like to do it on one knee. You can kind of do it two knees, however is the most comfortable for you. And also I kind of set myself up at this angle like we discussed before, where I'm not completely perpendicular to the bar, but I'm open to it. And now I bring this bar up, and I'm pressing up and, you know, a little bit away from me so that that force is driving down, driving that ball into the socket. And now we're doing more of an overhead press because this bar is basically going straight up instead of out at an angle. Yes, it's still at an angle, but it's more straight up than it was before. And in this one, you really want to make sure to have a good solid base and position. And you're going to notice that when you get down here, the bar might want to do this thing where it either internally rotates or externally rotates, and it's going to require some stabilization muscles from you. But if you adjust your angle relative to the bar, you should be able to find kind of a sweet spot for that, where that feels really good. And then you can just rep these right out nice and slow and controlled. And with this, we're going to be keeping our core pulled in tight, making sure that you're going to have some glute engagement if you're up on one knee. And again, we're just nice and controlled with this rep, bringing it down as low as we can get, and then straight back up. There's a few of my favorite variations with Landmine presses. I hope you enjoyed them. If you like this video, be sure to smash that like button. Also, be sure to check out the on-screen links for more content just like this. We have an entire channel full of hundreds of videos just like this. And also, if you need any of the equipment and resistance bands or accessories shown in this video, head over to clenchfitness.com and we will hook you up.